Maybe you've noticed that we don't have the time to be oblivious anymore. That is something I kind of noticed when I watched the latest Jensen Huang interview, in which a reporter actually asked him, well, if you had the chance, would you, relive your 20s in your time or essentially our 20s nowadays? And he took a second to think and he was like, well, I'd like to live my 20s back in my time because we had the time to be clueless, we had the time to do mistakes. It didn't cost us to do a lot of mistakes. And nowadays, our generation, we don't have that anymore. Like, you cannot fail anymore because if you do, your economic status, which to outside factors, which is already not good, will be worse. And that was kind of depressing to hear actually, because our whole life will probably consist of making mistakes and learning from them. Now, if you don't have the time to be oblivious, to just go with the flow and have these random thoughts that only come when you're completely relaxed, you will never really understand what you're here for and what you like to do. Because I can tell you from my university experience, I wouldn't say it's how I'd imagined, actually. There is not a lot of free time in which you can like just think about what you're currently doing, whether that's what you want to do. There is not freedom to essentially look around and see other majors, for instance, just because you don't have the time flexibility. And I feel like that is what made the 20s previously so much fun in all these movies that we might have grown up with. It was the fact that, hey, these kids, they don't know anything, but we have a good feeling that, they'll still succeed. Like, if you've watched Friends, that was the whole idea. Those kids were in their 20s essentially, um, and they had situations all day, but they were together, they struggled, they found new ways, and at the very end, if you've watched it completely through, they seem to have a happy life, all of them. Now, we don't have that. You are pressured to go and sacrifice your skills and your time for a company, probably, that one doesn't necessarily align with your values and your vision for yourself, and two, costs you more time than you're learning. Because obviously, jobs are here for us to learn, right? Like, the only premise about jobs is not to make money, it's to learn things. And if you're not doing that after a few weeks, then what job is that? Because again, even in jobs, you should be oblivious. Like, if you go to my LinkedIn, right, like you'll see I did a lot of random stuff. Volunteering, I looked into startups, I've even like had internships at bigger companies, and now I can kind of tell you what I like to work with and like what I don't like to work with. It is my preference to say I enjoy startups more because I learn more. It could be your preference to say, hell, no, I like the bigger ones, they pay better. That's all fair and good, but you need to be oblivious and have the time to do that. If you don't do it while you're oblivious, one, you might develop kind of like an arrogance because you're assuming you know everything, or two, you just don't try anymore because you want to be certain that if you go into this job, this obviously leads you to a certain skill level, new knowledge, but you have a goal that you want to achieve. If you're oblivious, you don't necessarily have to have a goal. You learn and you are very much comfortable with failing, but we can't do that anymore. If you know, as someone my age, that one, you probably can't afford a house. Two, um, your life and your future might not be as good as the one of your parents. Three, you seem to not enjoy life, kind of, because of social media and all these doom scrolling devices and apps. You don't have the mental capacity to be oblivious. And that is the biggest disadvantage for our lives. If you don't have the time to figure out what you want, do you even have the time to think about what you don't want to do? Because a lot of people, they regret certain life choices And most of them, they are concerned with jobs. Like, come on. You should not be regretting your life because of a wrong job you chose. But again, you can't really know what job you are here for and what things you'd like to do unless you have tried things. And to try things means to fail, and to fail means to have a certain mindset that allows you to fail, and a certain environment as well, right? That is the gift of being oblivious, you know. That's why I was like thinking about what Jensen Huang said, because obviously his company is the most valuable one in the video. And he's telling you, hey, use your time to be clueless about things. It's fine. And he tells you strict, like he tells you in the face, like, we don't have that anymore. Yeah, I do find that kind of depressing. But if you can afford yourself to be a bit clueless in certain life situations, do it, because you probably won't have the chance to do it again.